Pastor like?
That's it.
And this one doesn't fit. But I know that it's on Amazon, right? There we go. There's a challenge. Thank you, Dorothy. Thank you for wearing it. Jenny said wear something bright. I love it. Jenny, thank you. And thank you, choir. You've got my mind focused on the right things. What a wonderful name Jesus is. It is the name that brings hope. It is the name that changes all things. And to tell you the truth, this morning when I got to church, it's like it didn't stop. I said to Jenny, oh Lord, so many people are out today. We've got to get all this stuff going on. And guess what? It's all fine. Because I remembered what Reverend Elder Cecilia said to us when she met with the pastors at General Conference. She said exactly these words. Do not let obstacles or problems get you down. Do not see them as failure, but see them as opportunities, right? And this morning, our worship service is just going fine, don't you think? The Spirit of God is in this place, and I'm claiming that will be true every time we meet together. And Lord have mercy, if you think it's good up here, wait till you get downstairs for lunch, because Kirk Blanford's pulled pork is waiting for you downstairs. And his homemade barbecue sauce. I can hardly wait to have it together. This sacred text can be deceiving on some levels when you look at it the first time and as you glance over it. And I'm going to encourage you to pull it out this morning and have it available as we go through the sermon together. Because I want you to know it's not about money. It is absolutely not about wealth in this parable or in life that Jesus is making the point about. I want you to know there is nothing wrong with wealth. There is nothing wrong with having an abundance of things. There is nothing wrong with planning your future. Nothing, absolutely nothing. As a matter of fact, I would say if you're not planning financially for your future, you probably need to get on that right away, right? Because it is a good thing to have money in the bank. It is a good thing to have a savings account. It is a good thing to have a retirement plan and in place. Many of our members here at MCC Richmond this past year retired, and each and every one of them said to me that they were going to be okay financially, but what they questioned was how would their life have purpose when they retired. And I love Jenny. Jenny said, Pastor, please make sure you're available to have lunch with me the first day of school, because for 40 years, the first day of school, I have gone to school as a teacher and then an administrator, right, Jenny? And then, lo and behold, as summer kept going, racing by last summer, as we all know, time does. And when it came close for that day that Jenny would experience not going to school, I said, so Jenny, where do you want to go to lunch? I don't need to have lunch with you, I'm fine. I was like, well, nothing like being kicked to the curb, right? But may I say to you that Jenny's attitude was exactly right. Because Jenny found a new purpose. Something else to spend her time with. Just not the choir. We benefit greatly because of Jenny's enthusiastic leadership of the choir and the music ministry of our church. Don't we? Yes, we do. But Jenny has found a way to engage in the world differently, to share her gifts in different ways. This parable is a parable about greed. It is about harboring and hoarding what you have for yourself only. And I would say it's even a little narcissistic, right? The farmer, notice what the farmer said. Let's read it together. The words that start with, the farmer says, this was a rich farmer who had a good harvest. Then what did he say? What will I do? And then what else did he say? I have no place to store my harvest. I know. I'll tear down. Do you see the emphasis here? It's all on self. It's all on self. Notice this is a conversation that the farmer is having with himself, for himself only. He's not having the conversation with a spouse. He's not having the conversation with a family member. He's not having the conversation with a friend, and he could care less about what the farmer is going to do for somebody else. And notice when the farmer gets himself in trouble. When does the conversation start? It starts when a brother says, Jesus, tell him to give me my inheritance. Oh, another self-centered question. Sometimes it is a good thing to just stop and to think about the gifts of God that we have been given. The gifts of God that we have been given. How wonderful that the farmer had a great crop, a good crop, an abundance of crop. But how sad that the farmer only thought of securing things for him or herself. Not about helping those who didn't have a good harvest, right? Not thinking about blessing those who helped the farmer have this amazing harvest. Not about just giving it away so that others could benefit just because he or she could, out of the abundance to what God had given the farmer. You see where I'm going here, right? Selfish self-centeredness will be the thing that always gets us in trouble. And what happens? Jesus said, this very night, your life will be required of you. Meaning, this is the night that you're going to die. And then what about all the grain that you have stored up for yourself? What good will it do? It will do no good. And why is that? Because it had been locked up and stored for the farmer only, and it would sit there and wither away like dust in the wind. How pathetic is that? My question is this. Now that I've got the point across about greed, what has happened in this farmer's life that the farmer thinks that they have a right to be self-sufficient? That they have a right not to think about others? That they have a right to hoard what God has given them only for themselves? What pain has this person endured to bring him to this reality? What fear is the farmer dealing with? And now you'll say, oh, Pastor, stop meddling, because you know what the next question is. Who is Jesus really talking to? Is Jesus talking to the brother who asked for the inheritance? Is Jesus talking to the disciples? Is Jesus talking to us? Because there are times that we don't celebrate inheritance. We don't think about sharing that as a gift given to us out of love. Nobody has to give you an inheritance. But you get an inheritance because of grace, because of love, because of an appreciation, because somebody wants to bless you. And I would say that each and every one of us are more than inheritors of God's love and God's provision and God's hope in our lives. And so can we rethink how we use the gifts that God has given us? How can we see that as we share of our many, many gifts, that people are blessed? As we share of the gift of health, as we share the gift of wealth, as we share our gifts of time, to make a difference in people's lives. It is imperative, I think, that people of faith think of neighbor first, that we think of others first. And let me tell you why I believe so strongly in this. Because when we see how our little effort to make somebody else's life a blessing, when we give a cup of coffee to somebody who might not have enough money to pay for it, when we give a meal to somebody who is hungry, when we bring in a pair of shoes, when we bring in a notebook, when we bring in a backpack, when we say, "You are welcomed here," these are gifts that people do not have. And when we see to where our little effort brings a smile to someone's face, or brings a different reality to someone, it's magic. It really is magic. Because you see how celebrating God's love with another person changes their reality. And there are many times when we need to experience that same blessing ourselves. And when we see it happen for somebody else, then and only then can we see it happening for ourselves. And so perhaps it is a little bit selfish that we reach out, especially when we are down and out, especially when we're discouraged, especially when we are hurting, especially when we are working on our brokenness. And why do we do that? We do that because in making somebody else's life better, we get better. I have to tell you, if you were in pain today, I would encourage you to try your best to make a difference in somebody else's life. And I guarantee you, you will feel better. I wish I could explain it. I cannot. The only thing I know is that's how God works in our lives. And perhaps that's the best answer you could ever hear. So perhaps this parable is not even about wealth or money and all that. But it reminds us of the need for community. It reminds us to stay engaged when we are hurting the most. It encourages us to build community. And why is that? Because as we build community, we allow people to share what's going on in their world. We allow people to share how they're hurting. We allow people to share the victories and the wonderful things happening in their lives. And I want you to know there is one way that this happens, and the most meaningful way is when it happens face to face. Can you imagine all of the gun violence that we are experiencing now? If these people, shooting people, had a place where they could go instead to talk about their pain. It doesn't take rocket science to figure this out. But we have an administration that is racist and continues to not see. Instead, we have an administration that talks about greed instead of blessing people. I challenge you to tell me how gun violence brings blessing to anybody. It does not. It brings death. Now, you know, I've said this many times, the blessing of God is that God even transforms death. But yet, this whole selfish attitude continues, self-centeredness, all because of brokenness. When will we allow ourselves to partner with others to go to the margins to make a difference? When? Greg Boyle, who is the person who wrote our reflection and meditation this week. Greg Boyle has written many books on lives that have been transformed. Greg Boyle is a Catholic priest in Los Angeles, California. And Greg, in the early days of his ministry, he was in communities where he heard guns going off all the time. And he decided that he wanted to go find out why. And so he got on his bicycle and went to where he heard guns being fired. And what he found was gang members shooting one another up. Just shooting one another up. And for years, Greg has reached out to those people. In Los Angeles, he has a ministry now that's been very successful for many years called Homeboy Ministries. Now, at first, I was like, Homeboy Ministry, why can't he be more inclusive? You know how I roll. And then I decided that I had to go down and experience Homeboy Ministries. And what I found were ex-gang members completely covered with tattoos. And I got excited when I saw all those tattoos. I was like, ooh. And one guy was tattooed from head to toe, working the pastry counter. And I thought, isn't this interesting? A former gangbanger serving me a pastry. The two don't go hand in hand. But as I got to know the people at Homeboy Industry, I got to see lives that have been transformed by the grace of God. Lives that at one time shot people up. Shot people up. And as Greg began to give them reason to think that they deserved a different life, as they were able to work on their issues, as Greg partnered with them, through his ministry, lives were changed. And I decided that I wanted to be part of this ministry. And so Greg invited me after he checked me out. He wasn't so sure he wanted me and all my glitter to be hanging out with these gangbangers, right? But after about 6 months' time, I started leading a rap session at Homeboy Ministry. And guess what? When I got there, they started to invite the home girls to come along too. And some of them really were women. Yeah. And we began to talk about relationships. We began to talk about change. We began to talk about respect of one another. Never once did those gangbangers bring a gun to my group. And I had a reputation there. They would say, "Oh Lord, the Lutherans in the house, pull up your pants." Because, gangbangers like to wear their drawers down a little bit. And one day I said, "Ooh, I'd love to see all those underwear." They never did that in my presence again. Never. I wonder why. But that was exactly the point. They knew me and I knew them. And when I showed up there, it was wonderful. I loved my time at Homeboy and Homegirl Industries because it made a difference. These Homeboy and Homegirl Industries, they have a bakery that is serving the barrio of Los Angeles. They make chips that are in Ralph's or Kroger in California. Because they also discovered the gift of giving away love. They didn't post it on Facebook. I'm here to tell you, I have come to learn that social media is a tool of Satan in the church and in our communities. I am sick and tired of seeing people talk about other people on social media instead of picking up the phone and having a call with them. Right? We can do better than that. We can do better than that. Please do not use social media to air your dirty laundry or to make an opinion about somebody else. Call them. Respect yourself enough to have integrity. Because community is important. Community that is safe is important. Because in a hurting world, it is when communities are safe that we make a difference. And we do. And we can. And why is that? Because we teach people that they are valuable, that God loves them no matter what. even when we make a mistake. And lastly, this issue about wealth and giving it away. This week, you might not know this, but Sean is as much of a computer guru geek as you could ever imagine. And I love that. So we have been working on just getting things ready for the end of the month. And Sean said to me, end of July, that is. Sean said to me, isn't this interesting? The amount of income that the offerings have brought in. And I said, well, what did you discover? Not only are we able to meet each and every one of our bills on time, including payroll. Thank you, Jesus. On time. But we ended July, the second month in a row, ahead. Ahead by a lot. Because of your generosity, this church is not experiencing financial difficulties anymore. And that is something to celebrate, don't you think? And I want to be very clear. As much as we love them, it is not Miss Ricky's team, and aren't they a great team, that is making the difference in our covering our bills. Her team, the fundraising team, is helping us make up for those months that we didn't have enough, right? But now we are ahead. We are halfway through the year and we are ahead. Thanks be to God. Please continue your giving. And there's something else that you need to know. We took the amount of money given for our designated funds. So the money that's given for the building fund, for the money that's given for the Good Neighbor Fund, for the money that's given for the Vicky Hester Food Pantry, for the money that is raised in the Noisy Offering, and other areas of designated giving. Right now, this year, you are giving away 10.5% of our offering income to the community. 10.5. When did you think you'd hear that kind of news? And what I think is wonderful about that is that we are being biblical as a congregation because we are giving away a tithe of what our income is. And that tithe does not include what we're giving in our assessments to UFMCC and the Pension Fund. What an amazing gift that we have learned not to hoard our money. That we are learning that you want the church to grow, make a difference in somebody else's life. And we are doing that, and we do it in a wonderful way. So continue to do it. And please, this week, please, just this week, try to only put blessing on Facebook instead of shaming and blaming others. And I guarantee you, you will experience the love and grace of God in new ways. Amen?
Amen.